Hey everyone, this is Panorama Dan, the OMAD Nomad, and today I'm coming with a new video, and the topic is going to hopefully bring into clarity some understanding about fasting. Um, Want to do a little bit of a history, and so if we look back into history, go back to 1676, and there was a pharmacist in Europe who developed carbonated water, and they thought that that had some great health benefits, carbonated water. And then you fast forward about 200 years, and Dr. Pepper um, developed the first cola type carbonated water. A year later, Coca-Cola was born. But it really wasn't until 1919 that a company called Whisper began really mass producing carbonated water. And so, it's relatively around 100 years since that's happened. If you go back into the 1800s, there was chocolate in Europe. There were chocolate producers, but it was very expensive, and mostly wealthy people, royalty, would eat chocolate. But in 1900, Milton Hershey in Hershey, Pennsylvania, cracked the code for mass producing inexpensive milk chocolate and brought chocolate to the masses. And then in 1954, a company called Swanson coined a brand new term called TV dinners. TV was a relatively new thing, but before the TV, families ate at their dining room table. And now they had this shiny new box that broadcast moving pictures into the living room. And Swanson began producing a convenience food that you could produce quickly and sit yourself down in front of a TV. And really, convenience food was born, and it has just exploded since then. So much so that in our modern grocery stores, almost exclusively the center part of your grocery store is going to be convenience food that's mass produced in a factory somewhere. So I say all that to say this, that it's relatively new when you look at the history of man. If you go back as far as even before the history of man, humankind, if you were to measure that roughly 100 years, maybe 120 years, that we have been on this journey for mass-produced food, if you were to measure that on a clock, a 24-hour clock, it would be less than 1 minute of that 24-hour clock that humankind has been eating and producing food in this way. And so that should strike you as, like it did me, that, that is, that's really a game changer as far as the way we eat and for our health, that we have began to eat this way. Before mass-produced food, mankind went through periods of where there was plenty. The crops would come in. Even before mankind was growing food, there were times when you could hunt and produce food, and then the mankind went through times of scarcity where they would go days without eating. And that's kind of the way we were built. And if I was being completely honest, I think I was built out of time, because I would have survived really, really well in those conditions, because I'm able to store up fat very, very easily. And many of you struggle with the same problem. We store fat very, very easily, which was fantastic in a different time where we had that plenty. We would store fat, and then when there was scarcity, our bodies used that fat. Now I have a friend, his name is Daryl, and he's in his 60s, so he's not some young guy who's going to grow out of this. He can really kind of eat anything he wants to. He doesn't have to worry about gaining weight. And I think he would have really struggled historically, and body types like his would have struggled historically, because during that time of plenty, he's just not able to metabolize body food into fat. He stays lean all the time. So when you have those times of scarcity, he'd have nothing, no resource to go to. Um, so I kind of jokingly say I was born out of my time. Now I live in this modern age where not only are we encouraged to eat 3 meals a day, we're also encouraged. Some people say you should eat 6 meals a day, or you should eat 3 meals a day and have snacks. We're eating snacks all the time when we go to bed, and it's very much different. Our bodies were really not built to metabolize food that way. Every time you stick something in your mouth, as far as food goes, you're going to have a glucose response and an insulin response. And when you have this insulin response, your body will not use the stored fat. All right. So that's why I think that this discussion of fasting is so important, because in the time that we live, we have to make a decision, many of us who metabolize food that way, to purposely put our body in a time when there's plenty, where we eat, and then we have to put our body in a time of scarcity, when we allow our body to have a reduced glucose response, or a reduced insulin response, a reduced caloric intake, and actually use some of the stored calories that we've stored up as fat in our body. And I think that until we come to this realization that, that things have changed, society has changed, and we have to change too. In years past, the greatest problem of the poor was starvation. And now the greatest problem that we see, one of the greatest problems we see with the poor, not just here in the United States, but all the way around the world, is obesity, type 2 diabetes. And it's because of this continual eating calories and never allowing ourselves to go through this cycle of plenty and scarcity. I think that that's kind of a realization that Carmen and I came to as we began to research and study about how the body works and how things have changed in the last 100 years in the society that we live in. So as you think about your struggles and your journey throughout your life with weight loss, as you think about your struggles related to obesity and maybe type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, sleep apnea, and some of these health issues that you might be facing, maybe it's time to consider that there might be a different way of handling some of these, rather than just running straight to a pharmaceutical type solution. And that is to begin to see if fasting might hold something of a benefit for you to overcome some of those challenges that you're having right now. Well, I hope to add to the conversation. If you have any comments, we'd love to have those down in the comments section. Like I've said, I'm not an expert on this. I'm learning, and I'm willing to learn. And if you have some expertise to add to the conversation, I'd love to hear that. If this conversation strikes home with you, and you want to see some more content related to fasting and your health, and how it might fit into your lifestyle, the channel is OMAD Nomad, and my wife and I at least half of the year live a lifestyle where we are in non-traditional type living situations where we travel. And so there's going to be some content related to that. If you find some interest and value here, I'd like you to like and subscribe. And as we add new videos and add new conversation, you can be a part of that. We'd love for you to do that. Well, this is Panorama Dan saying it's a great, big, beautiful world out there. Go out there and enjoy it.